At my own baby shower, my brother stood up and announced he'd gotten into Stanford. Just like that, the whole thing shifted into his celebration, while I found myself crouched on the floor, wiping frosting off the tile. I didn't say a word at the time. But the next morning, when my mom walked into the kitchen and spotted something left on the table, she started screaming. People always say a baby shower is supposed to be this sweet, soft little moment. Something gentle and joyful, pastel colors, dainty snacks, and everyone oohing and awing over onesies and miniature socks. That was the picture I had in my head while I spent 2 weeks putting it all together. I wasn't aiming for anything over the top, just something cozy, something that felt like mine. I covered all the food costs myself. I picked out the cake, chose all the decorations, and even deep cleaned the living room to get rid of the lingering smell of stale takeout and my dad's ever-present cigar smoke. I built a playlist of soft acoustic tunes, the kind I imagined playing in the background while my daughter drifted off to sleep someday. I even climbed up on a stool, 8 months pregnant, to hang paper garlands in the window because nobody offered to help. And the whole time I thought, maybe, just maybe, for one afternoon, they'd be happy for me. For once. In the beginning, it looked like that might actually happen. A few family members trickled in with wrapped gifts in hand. My aunt brought along some baby books. My cousin gave me this adorable little stuffed fox and said it reminded her of something I used to carry everywhere as a kid. For a moment, I started to believe this day could actually be okay. Then my parents stood up. My mom clinked her wine glass with a fork and cleared her throat like she was about to share big news, her smile practically glowing, like she was announcing a pregnancy of her own. Dad stood beside her with his arm draped over her shoulder. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Carter shifting nervously, barely holding back a grin. Just before we were about to cut the cake, my mom spoke in that overly sweet voice of hers and said, "We just have a little surprise to share." I knew that voice. I knew what it meant. This wasn't going to be about me anymore. Carter stepped forward holding a letter like it was some kind of sacred scroll. "I got in," he said, glowing with pride. "Stanford. Full acceptance." The room exploded. People clapped. Someone even let out a cheer. My aunt, the same one who'd just been telling me how excited she was to meet the baby, not 2 minutes earlier, rushed up to throw her arms around Carter. And just like that, the whole vibe changed. It was like someone popped the cork on a bottle labeled "Better News," and everyone got drunk on it. In less than 5 minutes, my baby shower morphed into a celebration of Carter's big college news. No one had to say it out loud, you could feel it in the air. The shift was real. People moved their chairs closer to him. The snack table I'd arranged with care suddenly became the buffet for his congratulations. Nobody touched my cake. Then his friends showed up, not mine, his. A whole wave of loud high school seniors burst in like they owned the place, backpacks still on. One of them yelled, "Where's the party at?" Another already had a Bluetooth speaker blasting. The music was loud, so loud it rattled the windows and completely drowned out the lullaby playlist I'd spent hours curating earlier that morning. I was still standing there, holding a cup of ginger tea someone had handed me. Still wearing that soft pink sash my cousin gave me that said "Mom-to-be." But nobody was looking my way anymore. They moved the baby gifts off the table to make space for drinks. My mom told me, kind of offhand, that we'd cut the cake later, once things settled down. Only the cake got shoved aside too. Someone set a bottle of soda next to it, and of course it tipped over, fizz trailing down the frosting. I grabbed a napkin and started blotting the mess. The icing had smeared onto the table. I dropped to my knees 8 months pregnant, trying to clean it properly before it dried. And while I was down there, wiping frosting off the floor like some overlooked maid, someone stepped over me to hug Carter. Didn't even say, "Excuse me." I stayed like that for a beat. Just crouched there, hands sticky with icing, trying to breathe through my nose while laughter and voices rang out above me. I could hear Carter in the next room talking about campus tours and dorm options. My mom was bragging about the private tutors they hired to help him succeed. This same woman told me, at 16, that college was a scam and I'd be better off getting a job at the supermarket. So I did. I worked shifts until my legs throbbed. Came home and packed orders for my tiny online store. Figured everything out on my own. And when my business started taking off, I didn't ask for a dime from anyone. I paid bills. I saved up. I bought this house with my own money they didn't even know I had. And yet, somehow, they still acted like it belonged to them. My mom once told me how lucky I was to be able to live at home while I was pregnant. Like she was doing me a favor. Never mind the fact that I paid the mortgage, the utilities, hell, even chipped in for Carter's tutoring last year. All of that ran through my mind as I slowly stood up, napkins still stuck to my hands. I looked around the room. My decorations were wrinkled and shoved to the side. The banner with my baby's name had been moved so they could hang up a hand-drawn sign that read, "Congrats, Carter." I didn't cry, didn't yell. I walked to the kitchen, washed my hands clean, dried them on a towel. Then I went to my room, closed the door, sat on the bed. My back ached. My feet were swollen. But my mind was calm. Down the hallway, the bass thudded like a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. I picked up my phone, opened a folder I'd been quietly building for weeks. I didn't fight. But I didn't forget either. There was a time when I thought things were fair between me and Carter. That we were just two kids caught in the same storm, trying to stay dry under a roof that always leaked. But looking back now with clear eyes, I can see how the scale was always tipped. Even in the smallest ways. Like when I was 6 and he was 4, he threw my favorite doll into the fireplace. I cried for a whole hour. My mom told me it was my own fault for leaving it where he could reach it. When I said that wasn't fair, she sent me to my room for talking back. Carter? He got dessert that night. I didn't forget. Not any of it. Back in 3rd grade, I came home grinning ear to ear, clutching a second-place ribbon from the school spelling bee like it was solid gold. My dad glanced at it for half a second and said, "Only second? Maybe you'll get M next year." That was it. Meanwhile, when Carter got a participation medal in a soccer tournament, they threw him a pizza party like he'd just won the state championship. In 8th grade, I brought home an A- on a math test. My dad nodded and said, "Well, at least you're making an effort." When Carter scored the exact same grade a year later, he got a tutor, a motivational speech, and a whole pep talk about unlocking his potential. I was always the mature one, so naturally I was expected to help out more. While Carter lounged in front of the TV with a controller in his hand, I was loading the dishwasher. I vacuumed while he got praised for remembering to take out the trash once a week. I was told to be patient, to be thankful, to set a good example. But the older I got, the more I felt myself fading into the background. When I turned 16 and said I wanted to go to college, my mom chuckled like I'd said something cute. "College? For what?" she said. "So you can waste 4 years and come out with nothing but debt? Honey, you're better off getting a job and saving your money." So that's what I did. I applied to anything and everything. Grocery stores, warehouses, retail chains. I landed a job at a discount clothing store and was working the sales floor on Black Friday while Carter was still figuring out how to open a locker. By the time he was 16, he had a brand new laptop, 3 private tutors, and a college prep coach. My parents even took out a small loan to cover it. They called it an investment. They never once asked if I needed help with anything. I still remember this one night, 17 years old, shaken up after a minor fender bender on my way to work. I wasn't hurt, just a little rattled. I called my mom from the side of the road. She let out a sigh and said, "You should have been more careful," then hung up. 2 years later, Carter scraped his car in a parking lot, and my dad left work early to be by his side. That night at dinner, he told everyone how proud he was that Carter had been so responsible for calling him. At 19, I started my online shop. Nothing fancy, just flipping clearance items and shipping them out of my bedroom. I'd stay up late packing orders, sometimes waking up with my head next to the label printer. I never talked about how many returns I had to swallow or how shipping delays left customers furious. I just kept going. Little by little, it started working. No big success story, no viral moments, just steady progress. It got me out of my retail job, gave me a foundation. Something real. When I bought my house, I didn't even tell my parents at first. I just invited them over one day and handed them the keys. My mom cried. My dad? He turned to Carter, gave him a pat on the back, and said, "Now your sister's got a place we can all share together." They moved in a month later. Never asked if they should pitch in. Never offered to help cover the bills. They acted like I was just doing what a good daughter is supposed to do. And I let it go. I told myself it was temporary. I thought if I gave enough, if I showed them enough, they'd finally see me. When I told them I was pregnant, I expected some sort of reaction. Maybe shock. Maybe even disappointment. What I got was worse. My mom just blinked and said, "Well, I guess that's happening." My dad asked if the father was still around. I said no. They both nodded. That was it. No follow-up. No congratulations. No joy. The next night at dinner, they told Carter. He laughed and said, "Looks like we'll have to baby-proof the Xbox." I laughed too, because crying would have made it worse. Later, when I brought up hiring someone part-time to help me with orders, just so I could get some rest in the final months of pregnancy, my dad asked, "Are you sure you can afford that? What about Carter's application fees?" I wish I could say that was the moment I snapped. That I stood up and finally said what needed saying. But no, it was just another stone in a pocket that was already sinking. Still, something shifted. Quietly. I started reading up, asking questions, making plans. Because if they weren't going to look out for me, I had to look out for myself. And for my daughter. I didn't want her growing up thinking that love meant giving and giving until you're empty. I didn't want her first memories to be of me cleaning up after people who treated me like a live-in assistant. So I smiled. I kept saying yes. Kept pitching in. Kept making it easier for everyone else. And behind all that, I kept planning. That baby shower wasn't really for me. Not in their eyes. It was just an excuse to host, to gather, to put themselves on display. But for me, that was the last time I was going to let them take something that was supposed to be mine. They just didn't know it yet. The house was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that buzzes like something's coming. Like a scream that hasn't escaped yet. A breath held too long. I stood in the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of tea. The soft hiss of the kettle was the only sound in the room. The sun was just beginning to rise outside. Inside, the counters were still sticky from soda spills, and the sink was piled with dishes that weren't mine. I'd placed the notices carefully, lined up right in the center of the table. Each one with a name on it in thick, black ink: my mom, my dad, Carter. 3 more copies stacked beneath. The baby shifted inside me as I lowered myself into a chair, pressing my hand to my aching back. My body was worn down, but my mind was sharp. Ready. I'd been getting ready for this moment a lot longer than they realized. Then I heard it, the slow creak of the hallway floorboards. Slippers dragging. My mother. She shuffled into the kitchen, let out a tired grunt, and then froze when she saw the table. I didn't look up. I didn't need to. "What is this?" she mumbled, her voice still heavy with sleep. I took a sip of my tea. She reached for the top sheet and started reading. It didn't take more than 5 seconds before her eyes went wide and her mouth dropped open. "What the hell is this?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the quiet like a blade. There was a pause. Then she shrieked. "Maya, what is this?" I didn't flinch. The mug in my hand stayed steady. I just took another slow sip. My dad shuffled into the kitchen wearing his robe, blinking like he still hadn't fully joined the day. Carter trailed in right behind him, rubbing his eyes and yawning. "What's going on?" my dad mumbled, his voice still thick with sleep. "She's evicting us," my mom shouted, holding up the notice like it had personally attacked her. Carter froze mid-step. "Wait. What?" he croaked. "I gave you all 30 days, I said, steady and calm. It's written out clearly." "You've got to be joking," my dad said. stepping forward and snatching a copy from the table. His eyes scanned it like it might rearrange itself into something more palatable. This isn't real. What is this? I sent the certified letters yesterday, I replied. This is just a courtesy. You'll get the official copies later today. Carter's voice cracked. You're seriously kicking us out? What the hell, Maya? I'm reclaiming my home. My mom's hands were trembling now. Her voice shook as she snapped, after everything we've done for you? And you're pulling this crap now? When you're about to have a baby? No, I said, because I'm about to have a baby. Carter slammed his hand on the table, scattering the papers everywhere like a gust of wind had ripped through the room. You're being ridiculous, he yelled. It was one party. One dumb party that got a little out of hand. Jesus, Maya. Let it go. I stood up, slowly. You hijacked my baby shower. You and your friends turned it into some kind of house party. You let strangers stomp through my home while I was on my knees cleaning frosting off the floor. 8 months pregnant. Like I was the hired help. We were celebrating, he shouted back. It wasn't a big deal until you made it one. My mom started circling the table, like she might try to physically stop me from speaking. This isn't just your house, she said, her voice cracking. We've been living here for years. Yes, I replied, and you've never paid a cent of rent. My dad stepped in then, arms held out like he was trying to calm the storm. Come on now, he said. We're family. This is just emotions getting the best of everyone. You don't really want us gone. We'll clean up. We'll apologize. We'll fix this. I looked straight at him. No, I said. You'll manipulate me like you always do. Try to convince me I'm overreacting until I doubt myself. And then you'll go back to pretending this house, this life, my life, belongs to you. My mom's face turned beet red. I thought she might actually burst. You ungrateful little brat, she screamed. You think you're better than us because of some silly online shop? You think that makes you special? We raised you. We sacrificed for you. I let out a laugh. Just one dry, disbelieving breath. No, I said. You didn't sacrifice for me. You sacrificed me for Carter. Every damn time. My father clenched his jaw. That's not true, he said. I turned to face him fully. When I told you I wanted to go to college, you told me it was a waste of time. When Carter said the same thing, you opened your wallet for tutors and prep coaches. I worked overnight shifts just to stay afloat, and you told me to stop complaining. Carter worked one summer job, and you bragged to everyone about how responsible he was. I bought this house. I pay the mortgage. And still, you treated it like it was ours. Carter kicked his chair back so hard it screeched. You've been waiting to do this, he spat. You planned it. You were just looking for an excuse. Yes, I said, meeting his glare. I was. He looked at me like I'd just driven a knife through his back. You're really gonna throw your family out over a stupid party? Over one moment. It wasn't just one moment, I said quietly. It was every moment. For years. That party just made it crystal clear. My mom dropped into a chair and started sobbing loud, exaggerated sobs, like she was auditioning for a soap opera. What are we supposed to do? She cried. Where are we supposed to go? What will people think? I looked her straight in the eye. Not my problem anymore. She stopped crying just long enough to glare at me. We're not leaving, she hissed. You can't just toss your own parents out like garbage. You can't do this. I can, I said. And I did. She stared at the paper in her hand, her lips silently forming the words again, like she thought maybe reading them differently would change the meaning. This isn't legal, she whispered. I walked over to the drawer, pulled out a folder, and placed it on the table. Inside were the documents, the deed, the notices, the certified mail receipts. I opened the folder and laid them out gently, one by one. It is, I said. I made sure. Carter snatched the folder and hurled it across the room. Pages fluttered everywhere like snow in a blizzard. You're heartless, he said. No, I said calmly. I'm just finally protecting my own heart. Then came the silence. But it wasn't the same tense quiet from earlier. This one was solid. Heavy. Final. I stood there in the middle of the mess, the wreckage they'd created, and for the first time, I knew it wasn't my job to clean it up. I want you all out by the end of the month, I said. If you need help packing, I've already asked a friend to stop by. You're not serious, my dad said. You'll change your mind. I looked him dead in the eye. No, I said. I won't. And then I turned and walked back to my room, stepping over ripped streamers, sagging balloons, and the shredded banner that used to spell out my daughter's name. They'd erased me. But I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. The first few days were eerily quiet. Too quiet. I kept expecting more yelling, more banging doors, more slammed cabinets. But none of that came. The house slipped into a strange kind of stillness. No one looked at me. And I stopped looking for them. Carter stopped blasting music from his room. My mom gave up her usual charade of cleaning the kitchen. My dad sat out on the porch for hours with the same cup of coffee, barely drinking it. But I knew that silence wouldn't last. On day 4, the phone started buzzing. First it was Aunt Denise. Then Uncle Marvin. Then my mom's friend from church, the one who hadn't messaged me in 3 years, sent a text. We're really worried about you, sweetie. Worried? Yeah, right. It was clear my mom had started rallying her troops, painting me as hormonal, unstable, probably making rash decisions because I was pregnant. She's not herself, she must have said to someone. She's acting out. She doesn't know what she's doing. I saw a forwarded message from a cousin. We don't want to stress her, but she really needs support. Support, concern, love, all just different shades of guilt. Emotional pressure wrapped up in soft words, trying to make me the villain of my own story. And then the next day, my dad said he wanted to talk. We'll start pitching in, my dad said one morning. Rent, utilities, whatever's needed. We should have done it sooner. You're right. He said it like he was offering me peace. Like this one gesture would wipe the slate clean. You had years, I told him. You didn't forget. You chose not to. He nodded slowly. Then came the follow-up. Just think about how this'll look to the rest of the family. And there it was. The shame card, right on schedule. I gave him a tight smile and walked away. On day 7, Carter tried a new angle over dinner. I talked to Coach Whitaker, he said. If I defer college for a year, I might lose my scholarship. I can't focus with all this going on. I can't even sleep. I nodded, not unkindly. That's rough. You don't care at all, do you? He snapped. Nope, I said. You didn't care when I was 8 months pregnant, scrubbing frosting off the floor while strangers trashed my house. He slammed his fork on the table and stormed off. By day 10, things escalated. My business partner called, her voice cautious. Hey, just a heads up. We got an anonymous email today, someone claiming you're emotionally unstable. That maybe you won't be able to handle things once the baby comes. They even suggested I start thinking about new leadership. My stomach dropped for a second. Then I took a screenshot of the email. Compared the phrasing to messages my mom had sent me before. The wording matched almost exactly. I didn't respond. I sent it straight to my lawyer. On day 12, the masks came off. My mom stopped pretending. She cornered me in the hallway and hissed, "You think you're strong now, but once that baby's here and you're exhausted and drowning, let's see how long this little stunt lasts. Don't come crawling back when you realize you need us." I looked her right in the eye. I already realized I don't. Day 16, a sheriff's deputy knocked on our door and left an envelope. My dad picked it up, read it, and punched the wall. Court filing, he muttered under his breath. They had really thought I wouldn't follow through. That I'd back down. That I'd lose my nerve. But the eviction was official now. The court date was set. And I was done hesitating. Day 21, they gave guilt another shot. My mom put on a loud, teary performance in the living room, crying so hard the neighbors probably heard. She listed every so-called sacrifice she'd ever made for me. How she let me stay in the house. How she watched over me during pregnancy. How she gave up her peace for me. Meanwhile, I was upstairs with my noise-canceling headphones on, updating my baby registry. Day 25, Carter invited his girlfriend over. From the kitchen, I heard him say loud enough for me to catch it, "She's insane. She's gonna mess up that kid's life without us around." I walked in, calm as ever, and looked straight at his girlfriend, The same girl who'd been drinking underage at my baby shower. You helped trash my baby shower, I said. If you don't want your name on a report listing every underage person who was drinking that night, I suggest you leave. Now. She went pale, grabbed her things, left without a word. By day 28, things started shifting. Suitcases appeared in the hallway. Quietly, hesitantly. One here, a box there. Slowly, reluctantly, they began packing. I didn't gloat, didn't smirk. I just waited. Day 30, the house felt different. Half empty, like it was exhaling after holding its breath for too long. My dad left first. No goodbye, no words, just walked out like he'd never lived here. My mom lingered in the entryway, arms crossed, eyes wet with tears. You'll regret this, she said quietly. Family is forever. I agree, I said. Which is why I'm building one that actually deserves to stay. Carter was the last to leave. He stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. You're lucky, you know, he muttered. Now that I'm gone, there's no one left to blame. Exactly, I said. Which means I finally get some peace. He rolled his eyes and walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. And then came the silence. Not the heavy kind. Not the cold, awkward kind that used to hang in the air. This one was warm, clean, peaceful. I stood in the center of the living room. With their clutter gone, it looked bigger, brighter, like even the house was relieved. I walked to the nursery, opened the little closet, folded a few onesies, tucked a soft pink blanket into the crib. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. I sat down beside the crib, one hand resting on my belly. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly safe. Not because someone else created it for me, but because I built it myself. It's been 4 years now. My daughter just started preschool last month. She wore a tiny purple backpack and told me she was going to teach everyone how to draw clouds. She's strong-willed, curious, and kind. She reminds me of me, only better. The business never stopped. Even during those sleepless newborn months, we stayed afloat. I hired 2 more employees, and last year, we hit 6 figures for the first time. I work less these days. No more constant hustle. I finally have room to just be. As for my parents, we haven't spoken since the day they left. I haven't reached out, and they haven't tried either. But families talk. People whisper at weddings and funerals. From what I've heard, Carter dropped out after his first year. Couldn't keep up without someone picking up the pieces. My parents moved in with my uncle, but that didn't last long. He kicked them out after 6 months, something about unpaid bills and my mom being, well, my mom. They're not doing great. And no, I don't feel happy about it. But I don't feel guilty either. I gave them chance after chance. I asked for the bare minimum. And when they refused to give even that, I finally stopped giving them everything. People love to say family is unconditional. But honestly, I think respect should be.